So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another album review of The Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and I said album review, I mean interview. Interview of The Shield Dude on a Couch. And tonight I'm joined by Matt, and he's the lead singer and guitar player for the band No Lights. So, No Lights is a band from San Francisco, California, and they have some indie rock to them, some punk. And we're going to talk about the album that's coming out in just a few weeks. So, first of all, Matt, how are you tonight?
Good, man. Good. No complaints. How you doing? Everything cool?
Yes, everything's really cool over here, and I got to listen to the album, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's an album that has like a lot of variation. The album's called Dream Eraser. It's dropping on June the 9th of this year, and it's 10 tracks. And if you are a fan of sorry, why did this move? If you're a fan of like different rocks from the 80s and 90s, I think you will dig this. A really great song. So Matt, uh I got to listen to the album. So when you were writing this, I know that in 2020 you had an EP that I listened to as well. Uh Something that I dig about that EP. That EP is there was a lot of like punk rock energy on that EP. But when you got to work now on the full length, I found that the full length had more variety to it and not just like punk energy. Like, what was the difference from that first EP to your debut record?
I mean, I don't know that it was intentional. I think it kind of just happened organically. When so me and the drummer of this band used to play in a metal band together called Early Grave. So we have a long history of music, and we were a touring band. Um, and I mean, it was a great experience, but as most I think independent musicians could probably relate to, it was also very taxing financially and yeah, it was just tough, you know what I mean? Especially when you're not really monetizing your art, to the full extent. You're just kind of doing it out of the love. So when that band dissolved, I kind of focused on just trying to get my money right. I went and got a big boy job and kind of stepped away from music for a few years. And then after that, kind of dust settled from that. I began writing songs again. Um, and the general spirit of the thing was like, let me just write songs just to write songs, just try to write songs in the most uninhibited way. I wasn't trying to, I guess, like curtail the music stylistically in any kind of particular direction. And it was also my first time singing, or at least attempting to sing. So I think our first couple of releases, the tape and the double EP, was just a kind of a matter of us just trying to find our sound and just kind of going with it, not really consciously trying to have a particular sound, just trying to write music that we enjoy and thought was good. Um, and it was right around, I think, when we were recording the two EPs, the June Bug and Stay Awake, that I feel like the sound started to become a little bit more realized, and we kind of found our style. It's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to explain. It's like um, a more rockin' interpretation of maybe like a Echo and the Bunnymen or Psychedelic Furs. There's definitely like an '80s thing going on. Um, and while we were recording that, I feel like I kind of found my vocal style. So, I mean, the first couple releases, the tape and the EP, was just about kind of finding the sound. And then it wasn't until
Mhm.
we started writing the full length until I feel like it became more realized, and we kind of like found our little niche. And yeah, we've definitely been going in a more melodic direction. Maybe the next thing we'll do will be more noisy and rocking. I mean, we just kind of take it as it comes. You know what I mean? We demo the songs. We usually let them sit for a little bit to try to remove ourselves from them. And if we're coming back to them and they continue to be, they have that thing, we'll continue to work on them. And these 10 songs are just the ones that we thought were the best. You know what I mean? And we weren't like necessarily trying to be more soft or melodic. It's just kind of, that's just the way it happened.
I don't mind. I think if it's good music, it's good music. Like you
Yeah,
don't have to be hard all the time. I like it because it has the the new album. I think I heard some influences from the Pixies, The Cure,
yeah,
some 80s uh alt rock bands, and also some 90s as well.
sure.
So I thought it was good, and I listened to the two EPs as well.
Oh, right
Uh,
on.
well, on Junebug, you have a song called Metal.
Yeah. Well, that's actually it's a Gary Newman cover.
Oh, that
Actually,
was like
yeah,
that
Gary
was a
Newman.
cover.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was us kind of doing a Gary Newman song. The original is like really synth based, and we don't have a keyboard player in the band, so to kind of I don't know emulate or interpret that music on the guitar was an interesting challenge, and it kind of ended up being this I don't know like a noise rock version of the song. But yeah, that's actually a Gary Newman cover.
Nice. And on this new album, you actually start the album with one of the singles that you released, Sparrows, and it's an acoustic track to begin with. So you begin the album in a very nice and pretty way. So what's that song about? I really enjoyed it as a album opener because sometimes people don't like it's sometimes people like to open the album like with the really bombastic one, but that
Yeah.
one really eases you into the album.
Yeah, it's funny. That wasn't the original sequencing that I was planning to do when we were in the studio. But as the mixes start to come back, for me, I felt like that was, it kind of emerged as being the stronger track to start off with. And it is kind of a different way of going about the sequencing of the record. Like, yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I think the more common thing is to kind of come out guns blazing and just try to like, set this kind of like, raucous tone or whatever. But, at the end of the day, I mean, it's a kind of a melodic record. I mean, for
Yeah.
us, definitely like when you look at the guys in the history of the bands we played in, I mean, the project in and of itself is way more pop oriented than I think anything we've done, and we're just trying to embrace it. And so, starting off with that track was just kind of a way of just kind of setting the tone, like setting up maybe more of a weird tone than
Mhm.
an angry or pissed off tone, which is kind of a different vibe for us as people. The song itself, I mean, I think much like when we're writing the instrumentation, I mean, it's I seldom sit down to try to write a song about a specific thing. I kind of just let the lyrics, I don't know, like be discovered in a sense. And a
Mhm.
lot of the writing that I really admire is kind of nonsensical and non sequitur. Like I really like, the outlaw poets like Bukowski and Todd Moore, guys like that. My writing style for lyrics is it's more like covert lyrical content, and it's open to interpretation. Um, After reading back, because it's funny, when you start promoting the record, they want you to talk about what the songs are about. People want explanations for what you're doing. And I was reading back through some of this stuff, and I think I was kind of using this kind of like cryptic narrative of maybe like a streetwalker or a sex worker. And the songs definitely got, some thematic things going on of, feeling alienated, feeling kind of disenfranchised. Um, you know, um, a lot of it has to do with kind of living in a big city and trying to navigate through life. And um, yeah, it's open to interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, and San Francisco is a big city. I went there a year and a half ago, and it's a city of like contrast. You have like
Sure.
really beautiful places, but then you go on a street, and I never seen as many homeless people in
Yeah.
my life as I saw. And it was like kind of like wow, it was impressive because it's a really expensive city as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's a really polarizing place to live. I moved here in the early 2000s, so I've been here for about 20 years now. Um, yeah, I mean it's not the easiest place to survive as a working class person. but I've been here so long, I guess I'm institutionalized at this point. You know, it's all I know. But
Yeah.
yeah, it can be a really beautiful place. It can also be a really brutal place. You know, there's a lot of things that go on here in the street, and crime and homelessness, and the fentanyl epidemic, and housing prices. I mean, it's yeah, it's its own thing for sure. And I think living here has definitely influenced me, and it's definitely a source of inspiration when I'm doing music for sure.
Yeah, no, and the second single that you put out, "Shallow Breathing," and it's also the second track on the album. I really like that one because that one is kind of the beat is more upbeat. I would say a little bit not danceable, but it has like some like you could move to it. So I enjoyed that one because it's totally different from Sparrows, and it picks up the pace a little bit. That one, what's the theme in that one in Shallow Breathing?
I mean, it's using kind of the metaphor of drowning and being in this kind of vicious seascape to kind of set a backdrop for um, this kind of subject matter of, I guess, maybe doing reckless things in life, maybe self-destructive things, but they give you a rush. You know it's bad, but you do it anyway. It's not the most positive song, but I mean, maybe if you're right about these things, it's a healthy outlet for them. I think I got sober when I was a really young dude. So that has it's been an interesting journey being a sober guy in my adult life. In spite of that, I think there's always this undercurrent of old behaviors that you kind of
Mm.
deal with when you're somebody who's recovering from some kind of a substance abuse thing, and I think that kind of made its way into that song, into the lyrical content. Musically, a lot of the stuff that I write is around. I'll just make a drum loop and just kind of jam to it and create loops. I like to use loop machines and things like that to help write songs. And as I've gotten older, instead of maybe writing one guitar riff that kind of tells the whole story, having the two guitars, sometimes now I'll err more on the side of simplicity, and just have two really simple separate guitar parts that together kind of hopefully make a cohesive sound. And I was playing a lot with that when I was writing that one. The two guitars they're basically doing, at no point in the song are the two guitars doing the same thing. They're both kind of like doing
No,
these
yeah,
simplistic loops, and that's kind of how I built the soundscapes in the song. And then it culminates, the outro um, riff is a culmination of this kind of like angular high guitar thing, and then this kind of like synthy sound that I found in this. I use this pedal. It's what the fuck is it called? It's a Mellotron pedal. So yeah,
okay.
Electro-Harmonix makes a Mellotron pedal. Mellotron is this kind of tape machine that the Beatles used a lot when they were recording. They used it on Strawberry Fields, and Electro-Harmonix made this pedal. It's supposed to emulate a Mellotron. I don't know that it actually sounds like a Mellotron. I think it sounds almost like more like keys, but
Mhm.
that's the sound that you hear on the output of that.
Yeah, piggybacking on what you were just saying, it sounds interesting that you're saying that you like the guitars like to speak, like even though they're not lyrics, they're speaking. What do you mean by that? Like the tone can relay if the song is sad or what you're trying to say with the lyrics?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's when I think about, like what is special about music, what is the essence of it? Like why is it so great? What does it do for me? I think one of the things is definitely when I think about like songs that really captured my imagination growing up when I was discovering punk rock. Um, there's always the most obvious things, the Sex Pistols and I grew up in the East Coast, so all the New York bands, the Agnostic Fronts, and you think about all these real you know I don't know, obvious things, I guess. But
Mhm.
along the way, as I was discovering those things, there's all these other kind of like little hidden valleys within the lineage of punk rock. Think about like later Iggy Pop records like Soldier, and even songs like Straight to Hell by The Clash, where you're listening to it and it's not really clear. It's like, is it melancholy? Is it sad? It's this weird kind of nebulous thing that you can't quite put your finger on, but it's really emotionally potent. You know what I mean? And you listen to it and you're like, you're not really exactly sure exactly what it's about, but all you know is that, it's a part of you and you can relate to it on a deep level. And so when I think about music, creating music, that's more the stuff that I'm interested in doing with No Lights. It's not necessarily about expressing, overt concepts, necessarily telling, a narrative that's super easy to follow, or tapping into a very specific, aesthetic. It's more about just being uninhibited and just allowing the music to be what it is. Yeah, I think the instrumentation, it tells its own narrative. You know what I mean? It might not be something that you could necessarily express with words, but it exists. It's part of how you are perceiving that information. So yeah, and really, my guitar playing, I'm not a virtuoso. Actually, bass was my first instrument. That was the instrument that I really spent a lot of time woodshedding and practicing to get proficient. Guitar was always more of just a songwriting tool. So it's less about, how proficient or technical that instrumentation is. It's more about like, what does it sound like? What does it do? Um, so yeah,
Yeah, I don't play any instrument, so you'll play it better than me. Uh,
thank you.
so, for you, so you started as a bass player, and obviously the guitar is better to write songs. I like what you were saying about the lyrics, that you like to write lyrics that sometimes are like open to interpretation. And I think some of the best, a lot, at least in the 90s, like
Yeah,
for example, I still don't know what Kurt Cobain was writing about in some of his songs,
sure.
because they were they were kind of like weird at that you didn't know. So yeah, those two singles are great, but I like like one of my favorite songs. I like the Head in a Cage song.
Oh,
Nowhere
thank
to Wrong, I liked it a lot as well. And Dream Eraser, I think actually all the tracks I enjoy, but those ones are pretty cool as well. Uh, on this album for you, like besides the two singles, like what tracks do you enjoy the most out of the process?
I mean, quite honestly, I mean, at this point, when you go through the process of demoing this, writing them initially and kind of doing bedroom demos, and then showing them to your bandmates and demoing them in that environment, and then recording them and mixing them, I feel like my perspective on them is kind of skewed. And it'll probably take maybe a couple years after the record comes out to where I can really feel totally removed and listen to them, in the way that somebody else could. Um, so that's a tough one. I mean, what's my favorite? I don't know. You know what I mean? I feel like, it's 10 different tracks, 10 different moods, 10 different kind of perspectives. And it's really just, yeah, it's a moment by moment thing. Um, I'm really interested in trying to figure out how we're going to pull off Dream Eraser live. You know what I mean? Like that's the
Mhm.
thing too, is a lot of these songs they kind of took on their own life in the studio, and then
Why
then you go,
that one specifically like?
yeah, yeah. What say that again?
Why specifically you think it's going to be hard to capture Dream Eraser like?
Well, for one thing, what we actually ended up settling on. for some of the instrumentation in the studio, it just wasn't sounding hypnotic enough. So I actually ended up making a sample, a guitar sample. And so,
Oh,
um, you know, what you're hearing during the verses, there's this kind of like incessant sample, you know what I mean, which you're not going to get in a live room. It's just a totally different feel. And
yeah.
I mean, we did a lot of really weird stuff in the studio in this record. You know, we reamped some of Dan's drums and we sent drums through modular synths and did all this stuff. That song is kind of like this really airy, hypnotic one. And it's also very bare too. There's not a lot of components. And I feel like when you're playing music that is truly very simple, you really focus on the stuff that is there. And, there's nowhere to hide. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We're doing some Texas dates later this month with this band Mall Walker, who are friends of ours, and we're going to start to play some of these songs live. So it'll be interesting to see how they land. You know.
Yeah. So the recording of this album, did you record it? Was the recording very modern like, or did you use like old school techniques of recording?
So we recorded. So two of the members on our band also play in a band called Kalu in Walled City, who's a pretty popular Bay Area metal band here. They're kind of a mix of like I don't know post post hardcore and some sludge and the singer from that band is a dear friend and he records No Lights. He does it. That's his day job is he's a engineer and producer of bands. So we did it with Scott Evans in Oakland at Anti Sleep and also Shark Bite Studio. And I would say um, I mean, it's recorded digitally. It wasn't on 2-inch tape, so in that way, you could say that it's modern. But throughout the recording process, I mean, we use a lot of old vintage gear, so there's some vintage tones that you'll hear on the record. A wide array of old amps and pedals and things like that. Another thing I like to do in the studio is it's an old studio trick is recording guitar stuff straight into the board rather than going through an amp. It's another old trick that you hear on a lot of old classic rock records. Is it has this very specific tonality to it. It's hard to explain. I mean, there's just no ambient tones that you would get from a room. And it's a very specific sound. That's an old trick. So I mean, it's a mix of new and old, but I mean, it is digital. It's
Yeah,
what we're
but
all.
I had to ask because the sound of the band is there's kind of like old school vibes to it. So
Sure.
that I was wondering how they recorded. So because sometimes some new music, modern music, it sounds so digital, and it sounds like
Yeah.
computers are making
Sure.
it, which is an interesting topic that maybe I'll ask for your opinion. Like, so Matt, right now the those AI like bands, or they're doing like they have like an AI Drake. They had like an AI, and they take the information, the computer, and it comes out with a Nirvana song. What do you think about this as being a musician, having like a computer artificial intelligence uh, being fed information and putting out music?
I mean, I don't know if I have an opinion on it. I mean, technology and music have been kind of moving together for a long time. And, at the end of the day, I mean, if it makes a good song, it makes a good song, and things that, if there's some creative element going on, and it becomes enjoyable. I mean, that's great. That's not the route that I'm going to take, but a lot of that has to do with my age too, is because, I'm in my 40s. I grew up, in
Like
the
me.
yeah, grew up in the 90s. The music, most of the music that I really enjoy, it has a lot of organic qualities to it. And it's that kind of human imperfections that I find really fascinating and endearing about a lot of the music and the art that I like. But I mean, times are changing, you know what I mean? Um, yeah, it's changed so much. I mean, I remember growing up and being into hardcore and punk, and it was really kind of like a hip thing or within the underground music scene is to kind of hate on corporate rock and really hate on all the grunge music that was happening at the time. And I look back now and I'm like, well, we were really spoiled because I mean, I don't know what are the new like rock and roll bands. I feel like pop and other genres have really kind of taken over. You know what I mean? I feel like maybe kids growing up maybe are less um they're just less into organic music, I guess. I don't know. And then people's ears get accustomed to all this super compressed digital music, and it's become the norm. Yeah, I don't really trip on it, you know what I mean? Like I just feel like you're my whole life I've been into stuff that's been kind of like on the fringe. So I mean, it's of course that they're doing that, you know what I mean? I'm sure, yeah, like maybe in 20 years from now, all the music that everybody will listen to will be made strictly by computers, and it'll only be, this cult thing where people actually go and see live bands like with actual people in them, you know.
Yeah, to
Who knows?
me that sounds depressing as fuck.
Yeah,
Like
man.
like when they have these shows, like they did a show like Ronnie James Dio dies, and they're like, oh, watch a Ronnie James Dio like hologram. I'm like, why the fuck
Yeah,
would I pay money to see a
right.
movie? Like I
No,
just see a DVD of him and or something and watch him live. But like it's kind of like weird because also the debate of like because I was hearing the debate like if you do an AI and you feed it and it does like an album of another band, is it copyright? Because
sure.
like are you do you own your own voice? It's fucked up, like your shirt says.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's just the way things are moving. But I mean, at the same time, too, you could say like when hip hop started to emerge in the '80s and people were making music with samples for the first time, all these people were up in arms and questioning its credibility. And when you go back and listen to a lot of that stuff, I mean, a lot of that stuff was fantastic. So.
Mm.
I mean, you can't fight it. Technology is going to continue to
Yeah.
grow exponentially, and it's just the way it is, man. I'm just grateful that I grew up in a time before the internet really kind of took over music, and I had the opportunity to have that character building search for art. Recording stuff off college radio and staying up till midnight and recording, Headbangers Ball onto a
Oh yeah.
VHS tape, or having to go to shows to find out about the other shows and really like valuing things like flyers and things like that. Yeah, it was a great time, but that time is over, and things
Yeah.
have
Well,
changed.
I think yeah, as long as people will still like to go see real musicians
Sure.
like do real music. So I think like they can use it as a tool.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the music is cyclical. For example, who would have thought like 10 years ago that vinyl would have a resurgence?
Sure. Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's like people like also like collecting things and streaming. So it's a interesting era because right now it's very easy to find music.
Sure.
Uh, and sometimes it's so easy that sometimes it can feel like there's too many things out there. Uh, so Matt, I know that you're having a few shows at the end of the month. So what can we expect from those shows? Are you guys rehearsing to see how you can pull it off live?
Yeah, well, we just did a short Northwest run, and we just did Reading, Portland, Seattle, and it was an opportunity for us to kind of get out there again and kind of get our feet wet. But yeah, I mean, when you go see us live, I mean, you're going to see, two guitars, a bass, and drums. I mean, it's a punk rock show, as
Yeah.
much as we go on these kind of musical explorations in the studio. I mean, when it's us playing live in a room, I mean, it sounds like a band. Um, yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how these shows come off. We haven't gone out to Texas with this band yet, but we're definitely excited to do it, and it's always fun to play. Um, So yeah, it should be cool.
So I want to share the artwork because I haven't showed it yet of the album. So here we have the artwork for No Lights Dream Eraser. What can you tell us about the artwork?
Yeah, so the all our artwork thus far has been done by this guy Justin McNiff. I found him on Craigslist of all places when I was starting the band, because we needed a logo, and I was looking through Craigslist, and I think his post was something like, I'm into Nirvana and Wu Tang is what he posted, and I thought it was
Nirvana
amusing.
and Wu-Tang.
Yeah, that was his thing. And we got to talking, and he's worked with us every step of the way, from the logo to t-shirt designs and all the release artwork. I think he does a great job. When early on when we were talking about, like, what the aesthetic was,
Yeah.
and wanted input from me. I think I threw out like maybe a cross between the Stooges and Godflesh. I don't know where I came up with that, but I was just trying to like rack my brain for, you know, um, cover art and logos and things that I always thought were really iconic and cool. And he, after doing like several rounds of drafts, we kind of arrived at what would be the no lights aesthetic. Um, this kind of like, I don't know what you call it, digitized figure has kind of been a part of
Mhm.
all the artwork that we've done. It was on the cassette, and then elements of it made it onto the double EP, and now this. Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for my input. You know what I mean? He sends drafts, I give input, and then he sends stuff back. But he's definitely been an integral part of the kind of the aesthetic, the visual aesthetic for the band. I think he does a really great job. He's got his own thing, um, and yeah, I mean, this was the culmination of like maybe like, I don't know, 10 to 15 drafts. He'd send something, and I'd say, oh, maybe more like this. Okay, maybe more like this. And it's interesting because I'm not a graphic design guy, so I'm sure my input is probably pretty primitive, but he does a
Me
really good
neither. So
job.
I don't know.
Yeah, he does a really good job of kind of interpreting my critiques or suggestions, and yeah, I'm really happy with the way the art looks. It's simple, and a lot like I guess some of the music. It's kind of like, um, there's a lot of it's simple, but there's a lot of layers to it as well.
Yeah,
And
like the music. So it
yeah.
complements the music really well in that. So when you were picking like a band name, how did you come up with No Lights?
I'm trying to think. I think I just picked up a notepad and a pen and just started writing words and just kind of jumping from concept to concept. I don't remember if there was anything else that was in contention, or that I really considered, but I know as soon as I said no lights, it just made sense to me. Um, and it's another one of those things where it's like, what does it mean? Like, I mean, does it mean like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it could mean many things. But really, band names, I think in general are a drag. It just because, like, a lot to what you spoke to earlier. I mean, there's so many bands out there, and it's more accessible than ever to start a band, pick a band name, and have some kind of online presence. So as you go out into the world and you're coming up with titles and you start Googling things, so many sequences of words have been taken. That's a part of the reason why you see a lot of unorthodox spellings and things now with bands. They'll intentionally
Oh,
misspell words.
and when you have a band that but there's another band name in a country, then they put like something like for example, when the band Ghost put Ghost BC because there was another band named Ghost or something like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy, but yeah, no, like, yeah, I think it sounds kind of punk rock of a
Yeah. I
name,
could, I
and
can deal with that. Yeah. Yeah, for
and
sure. I mean, yeah. I think as much as I attempted this kind of like let the band be whatever it's going to be. I just think because of, the scenes that we all grew up in, you can't help but let like the punk and the hardcore stuff kind of become enmeshed in what you're doing, even if you're not intentionally trying to do it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that could easily have been like an SST band alongside with the Minutemen or Black Flag, No Lights. That title would have sat nicely, within those other band names, I guess. It does sound like a punk rock band. I guess I never really thought about it that way, but yeah.
No, but yeah, I'm really glad that I got to listen to the album in advance, and that I got to talk about you about music and everything. So before I let you go, like I did a video at the beginning of the when I started the channel that the concept is like you have to pick 5 albums to take to a desert island that you
Sure.
would never get rid of listening forever. So if you're in a stranded island, which 5 albums would you take and why?
Man, that's a fucking tough one, dude.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see here. The funny thing is when you get down to something like that, I feel like the music becomes more and more pedestrian. It probably wouldn't be things that are super obscure. I'd probably take like, an early Metallica record, maybe like Master of Puppets or
That's a great
Ride the
one.
Lightning. Yeah, I'd probably take, maybe like a Clash record, maybe that's a tough one, maybe London Calling or maybe even Combat Rock. Um, for newer bands or more contemporary bands, I mean, you got to pay homage to a band like Converge,
Oh yeah, they're great.
amazing band. I'd have to take like maybe a You Fail Me or Jane Doe, maybe. And then, I don't know, man, that's tough. Maybe Fugazi record, maybe I take 13 songs with me. And,
You have one
maybe,
more.
maybe a Beatles record, maybe the White Album, you know, you know.
Yeah, that you have a different variety to
Yeah.
take
Yeah,
on
that,
that.
that that would be a sad day, man. I mean, 5 records, man. Fuck.
5 records. Yeah, it's tough picking them. I remember when I did that video with a friend of mine, I had to really sit down and think like which records would I want to listen to forever.
Yeah,
Like most of them are from the 90s.
sure. Yeah. No, I mean, there's so many great things that came out during that time. Quicksand and all that stuff. I mean, yeah,
Oh, and
so
actually,
so much.
Quicksand had an album last year that I actually bought that one on vinyl. Really good record.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
great. They're fantastic. Um, yeah, I don't know why I just blurted out Quicksand. I mean, the '90s is a vast landscape of music, but yeah, Quicksand's a great band. I saw them on the very first year of the Warp Tour, like maybe like '96 ish, and that Manic Compression record had just come out, and I was blown away. I thought they were fantastic.
yeah, no, yeah, they're a great band and very influential to a lot of like modern bands. So the album's coming out on June the 9th, and actually people can pre-order it. It was going to be released on a black vinyl and on digital platforms, and you can find the pre-orders on Bandcamp and the vinyl pre-orders too on the web shop. So what I'll do is I'll post the link
Oh,
so
great.
people that want to buy the album uh, physically will do so. And also, if you're in Texas, at the end of the month, they're going to be playing. I am seeing that you're going to be playing in Denton, Texas. You're also going to be playing in Oklahoma City, Houston, and Austin. So yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And you're going to be with some other bands. So are you guys the headliners of this tour?
Oh, I don't know if we're the headliners. I mean, yeah, maybe we'll play last some nights. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
you.
yeah. I mean, us and Mall Walker kind of put the shows together. I mean, it's a bunch of up and coming bands. I mean, I don't know who the headliner is, but we'll be there.
Nice. Yeah. So people, if you're in Texas or Oklahoma at the end of the month, go catch the band live. So Matt, I want to thank you for taking some time to talk with me about the record and music in general. and hope that you know, it's a success, and people can get into the band No Lights, because we need newer bands to carry the torch for more like alternative punk rock, because like metal is cool, but I actually this I like metal, but I think this music I like, I don't know, I like more because it speaks to me, since it's I think it's no, it's the 90s in me. uh like I just like good, like good songs with good lyrics and catchy beats. So anything you would like to say to the people before we go, that they're gonna watch this video?
Oh, I don't know, man. But you know, if you made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You know, thank you for paying attention to our band, and thank you, Hector, for having us. We really appreciate it. And yeah, man, we'll see you out there. Hopefully, we can make. I would love to make it out to Puerto Rico. You guys got a kicking scene out there. What city are you in?
I'm in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we have metal bands, we have ska bands, we have even shoegaze bands here. So there's a lot of like different type of bands and death metal bands, but they don't get played in the radio here. But
Right.
we have a cool scene here, and yeah, we like the it's a small scene, but it's a cool scene. So yeah, it would be cool if sometimes you got to play over here, because yeah, it's a cool it's a cool rock and metal scene over here.
Nice, man. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Hector, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So people, No Lights, Dream Eraser comes out on June 9th. So get it and pre-order it. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the shield dude on a couch, and I'll see you right here on the couch. Thank you